Okay, hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to our webinar, ChatGPT for Businesses. So we're just going to give it another few seconds or so here with Zoom allowing people to log in. I see lots of people coming in and a few more still joining on. So yeah, hot topic, isn't it, Tyler? Yeah, so I'm joined by my partner, Tyler Sanders here.
Morning,
ChatGPT,
everyone.
we've been hearing it everywhere, right?
It's all the buzz.
It is all the buzz. Well, I will say, I mean, it is a pretty cool tool to use. And yeah, excited to show everybody here a little bit about what it can do.
Yep. The buzz is deserving.
It certainly is. Yeah, it's I've just been blown away and just blown away every day. I keep thinking of new things to try out on it. And hopefully everybody on the call here today will feel the same way about it. Okay, so we're just going to get started then and jump into everything. So yeah, my name is Michael Shagru and I'm joined here by Tyler Sanders. We are both Chief Revenue Officers and partners here at Pace Technical. Just super quick before we get started on everything, I'm sure a lot of the people on the call are probably familiar about us. If you've been to one of our previous educational webinars, welcome back. If you've never been to one, welcome. Hope you get a lot out of today. Just real quick about us. We've been in business a little over 23 years. We are a managed IT support business, but more specifically, we have a big skew towards proactive services. So proactive managed IT security, managed cloud services. We're about a 60-person firm right now. And we are an ISO 9001 certified business, last 8 years, great place to work in Canada, and currently working with about 140 businesses total. Yeah, we have about 60 law firms included in that, but about 100, somewhere between 140 and 150 businesses right now that we support. So on the right, you can see kind of our service model. Really what I tell people, we do all the basic reactive services that most other IT companies do, the monitoring, the basic maintenance, the help desk, projects, and things like that. Most people want to work with us for the proactive side of our business, where we're aligning our clients to specific IT standards, network standards, best practices, a dedicated proactive consulting team, and our own in-house IT security team led by a certified CISSP. So look, if you haven't had a conversation with us recently, we've had lots of changes over the last year, lots of improvements and enhancements to our service. Love to have a conversation. Even if we had one years ago, love to speak with you again. And we'll give you some ways to get in touch with us a little bit later. As I mentioned, we do a lot of these webinars. If you've never been to some of our webinars or you've been to some, we actually have copies and access to recordings of all of our previous webinars. If you go to pacetechnical.com, you go to the media dropdown under resources, you'll see and have access to all of our previous webinars. Lots of topics in there, cyber, general technology, Microsoft, etc. So
lots on Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint.
Exactly. And if you are a Pace client, you can access all these webinar recordings in our custom Pace client portal as well. So go ahead and access it there. So our agenda today, pretty simple. Just going to start out, what is ChatGPT? Go probably a demo of the basic benefits. And then we're going to see some, hopefully real life use case examples. Again, we're just probably really going to be tipping the iceberg. How it might be able to help you, your operations, help you serve customers, and then some, maybe look at some best practices, and then talk about limitations, because there are limitations to ChatGPT as well. At the end, we're going to open it up for Q&A. Now, I'm going to, preface all this by saying, Tyler and I, we are not experts in ChatGPT. And as a matter of fact, I'd probably say the only people that are experts in ChatGPT are probably the people that created it at OpenAI. Everybody else seen that the technology, certainly the most recent release and the real popularity of it is still very, very recent. So, but I do want to encourage everybody on the call to go ahead and sign up for it. Just some super quick housekeeping. Yeah, obviously everybody here is in listen only mode, but in the webinar is being recorded. I know it's a question that we get every time. We are going to send out access to all attendees after. You can ask questions, and we're really encouraging that you ask questions. You utilize the Q&A section or even the chat section at the bottom of your Zoom window, or you can also raise your hand if you want, and we can call on you and do some things live. But we are trying to make this as interactive of a session as we possibly can. So once I'm going through some examples, it might, spur some ideas in your mind of things that you might want to see. Throw it in the chat, throw it in the Q&A, and we'll, try some of these things out live with you today. And we're hoping to leave about 15 minutes at the end to cover off on some questions. So hopefully we will have that time, and hopefully Tyler will try and keep me on track with time, because I feel like sometimes I can get carried away with this.
Yeah, but again, as we're going through this, please just throw questions into the question and answer section of the Zoom panel, and we'll try to incorporate those into the live demo. So all of this is really, we want that interaction. We want to give live real world use cases that we can demo through this presentation.
Exactly. So we're going to start it off with a poll question. Are you able to see that, Tyler? Oh yeah, sorry, here we go. How many of you have already used ChatGPT? Like, how many have signed up for it and used it and played around with it? Maybe just dabbled in it a little bit. And it looks like several people have at least tried it already. Maybe some people I haven't. Okay, we're just going to let this go a little bit longer. And I think just give it a couple more seconds here. All right, I think we got most people with their responses in now. So I'm just going to end it there. And we can see that it's actually 70-30 split. So about 70% of the people on the call have already, tried it out or used it. And then about 30% of the people haven't tried it out at all. So that's great, and great background info. So just so everybody knows on the call that, yeah, we're going to try and keep things super high level. This is really an introduction just to kind of show you how to get started, how it works, and things like that. So just super quick, what is ChatGPT? We're going to get into a better definition in a minute in the live demo, but just some background on it. Started by a company called OpenAI, which was founded in December 2015. Fun fact, Elon Musk was one of the founders that actually started it. Right now, they're on the fourth iteration, the fourth release of it, called GPT-4, which was just released in November of 2022. And it was with this last release that, all the buzz and craziness and hype has happened. Over the years, starting out in 2015, I think the first release came out, I believe, in 2016, I want to say, with something like, 17 million data points. And because, obviously that's what ChatGPT is, right? It's an amalgamation of all kinds of data from, millions and millions of sources. So it started out with around 17 million. I think the latest release is in the billions of data sources. It's just insane how much data it has. And lastly, the current value of OpenAI, and I don't even know if this is super recent or not, but the figure that I saw was valued at about 29 billion. So when you first log into ChatGPT, it's not showing up for me anymore. This is kind of the screen that shows up. gives you some examples, just talks super quick about the capabilities and limitations. We're going to talk about all this in a minute in the live demo, which we are going to jump into right now. So I'm just going to stop this share and I'm going to jump right into it. So here is the screen that you would see when you first go to openai.com. So that's the first step if you want to get it. And when you go to sign up, you click sign up. You can sign up with an email account, or you can sign up with your Google, Microsoft account, your Apple ID, any of those. You click continue and generate a password and away you go. But I'm just going to back out of that because I already have an account, and I'm just going to go here to log in. And I've already logged in already before. So this is the first screen that you come to. So there's basically three options when you first start. There's the main section, which is ChatGPT, and that's what most of you on the call are going to be using out of the gates. That's where the free version exists. But there's two other options. The first one is called DALL-E, and this is a graphic engine. Works somewhat similar to ChatGPT. I'm just going to do a super quick look at it. Now, this is a paid version. If you do want the graphics capabilities, you have to buy credits. If I click to buy credits, you can see 115 credits cost you $15 US. Exactly how the credits, I haven't even used this section just yet. But just to give you an idea, you can just, put in a description of whatever kind of image that you want. Here's a couple of examples. So you can see the little fishbowl. The description they gave was a 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, digital art. And this is what it generated. Same thing here, an armchair in the shape of an avocado. And it generated this. So pretty darn accurate, right? But again, we're not really going to get too far into this, so I'm just going to go back, but just wanted to give you an idea of it, and if you want to try it out yourself. The last option is the API. So most of you on this call, like AI obviously is not new, and chat-based technology obviously is not new. Lots of, you're probably, without you even being aware, you're probably on a website, who knows, maybe even your own company website has a chat feature on it that is run by a similar engine to ChatGPT. But the API is what programmers, developers, and things like that can add the back end of this engine in. I was actually hoping to show you another product that integrates with HubSpot. We're HubSpot users for our CRM system, and there is an app called ChatSpot. For whatever reason now, I don't know if it's down or not working, or maybe just not working for me. I couldn't get it running, but just wanted to show you an example of an external thing. But there's all kinds of them out there, and more coming out every day. So let's just get on with the demo, though. You just click here on ChatGPT, and it's going to bring up the standard window. So you can see right across the top, there's two options here on the top. The first one is for GPT version 3.5. That's probably what most of you are going to use. This is the free version. Their description, their fastest model, great for most everyday tasks. And it's available to both the free and plus users. So I've generated a plus account, and basically what plus gets you is access to the absolute most recent version, which is GPT-4. Their description, their most capable model, great for tasks that require creativity and advanced reasoning. I think there's also preference when it's super busy, because obviously it's a very popular app right now. And when things do get very busy, it does give preference to plus users. Now, one other thing, I clicked on GPT-4 here. There is a limitation in that you can only generate 25 messages, or basically 25 queries every 3 hours. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to use the one that I'm assuming most people are going to use, which is GPT 3.5, and I don't want to get tripped up by any limits while we're doing this. So I'm going to click back here on GPT 3.5. So basically, this is ChatGPT is a chat and a conversational chat feature. So you'll see across the left-hand side here, this menu system, when you want to start things out, you would just click new chat. I mean, it's already started one. by default for us, and it gives us this little chat window. So I thought I'd start with something super simple, and really the first category of things that you can do within ChatGPT is simple questions. A couple other things I wanted to get out of the way with ChatGPT is, number one, it doesn't have access to the internet, certainly right now. Maybe in the future, it'll be directly connected to the internet and be a source of real-time information. But right now, it does not have, and who knows, maybe it'll never have access to the internet. So you can't like reference a web page, a current web page, and ask it to find information on a current web page, because it just can't do that. It can't go out and search the internet. It can only use the data that's already been provided for it, much of which came from the internet. So it's trained on this large data set of billions of pieces of information. It includes books, articles, websites, and other publicly written material. And it really then can identify like language patterns, facts, general knowledge, not to the extent of a human, but to the extent of data and fact. And so basically, everything is coming in from both automated sources as well as, a certain portion of it, humans had to look at it and decide, hey, is this real information? Is this good information? So it's both, known information. They automated a lot of things like, importing all the text from, every book ever written, type of thing. And lastly, this data set is only current until September of 2021. So any information after September 2021 is not available in here. So if you are looking for the absolute latest, greatest information on a certain topic, it's not going to be there. So probably with future iterations, the timing will go on. Anyways, sorry, back to the demo, starting out with simple. Let's keep it really simple. What is ChatGPT? So you can ask it basically any kind of a question. Just throw it in there and it's going to come back with a response. So AI-based conversational agent developed by OpenAI. So if you're wondering what the GPT stands for, it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer Architecture. Okay, very fancy, right? Really designed to understand and generate human-like responses to any text-based prompts or questions. We already talked about it based on deep learning techniques. So one of the cool features of it is it's conversational. So once I make one query like I just did, what is ChatGPT, it's going to remember what I just asked. And now if I wanted to change it, and maybe I don't like to read a lot of text, I could just type in this, make it shorter. So it'll come up with a much more abbreviated version of a description for ChatGPT without having to rewrite the initial question. But let's say if I wanted to be a little bit more efficient, and this is the best way to use ChatGPT, is by being a little bit more specific about what you're asking it for. So instead of doing these two steps, I could have done it all in one step and just said, what is a simple and concise explanation of ChatGPT? And then it would go ahead and just give me a one-line answer as to what it is. So let's give it something a little bit harder. And let's ask it something like, oh, geez, all my stuff from my other documents coming up. Describe quantum physics, all right? Give it something a little bit more difficult to explain to us. Okay. It knows all this, obviously, and this is not even breaking a sweat. But let's say, yeah, I'm not the smartest person in the world, and I don't even understand what this description is. You can do other things like, now explain it like I am a 5-year-old. And all these descriptions that you put in a lot of cases, it doesn't have to be grammatically correct. Any of these queries that you make, it could be run-on sentences. That doesn't matter if you want to add in lots more descriptors. So here we go. Quantum physics is a special kind of science that helps us understand how really tiny things like atoms and particles behave. So pretty cool. And every time you do it, sometimes it'll come up a little bit different. But let's say I don't like this response and I want to regenerate and see if it can reword it in a different way. So just by clicking regenerate response, now it's going to do something and just change it a little bit. Now, anytime I do, it's going to ask for some feedback. Is this better or worse? Well, I haven't read the whole thing. It looks kind of the same to me, so I'm just going to say it's the same. You'll notice now when you do regenerate a response, you'll see now I have a 2 of 2 here. So I can go back to the initial response and toggle back and forth and see both responses. And I can keep hitting regenerate response until it comes up with something that I like. A couple of other features here, it's always asking for feedback. So you can give a thumbs up, a thumbs down if you like the or dislike, or if you think it's bad information or not what you were looking for, you can give it the thumbs down. Also, a really, really powerful tool here is that you can click this button here to copy whatever the response is, because most likely if you're using it, let's say to write something and you're going to be using it in another document, it's super quick and easy to just click that little button there, copy, and then go and paste it somewhere else. So now you're probably starting to see some of the differences really between how ChatGPT works and the differences with Google. Because if I wanted to search quantum physics in Google, like I would just get pages and pages and pages of websites with, different descriptions and, varying degrees of how scientific or how simple somebody might explain it. But very, very quickly, we can get right to the root of the issue here using ChatGPT. So that's the first thing, which was simple questions. The next category is list commands. So it's just going to be able to generate, any kind of list. Let's say, as an example, what happened to my W there? What are the top 10 ways to cure a cold? Just hearing of a lot of people recently with colds, so maybe this could be useful information, and it'll just come up with a whole bunch of things that it finds from its own sources there. Another example might be, what are the top 5 reasons not to use aspirin? And you can create arguments and you can ask it. I've even pulled up, examples of, I don't know, court cases and things like that, and said, give me an argument against this particular topic or court case, and it'll even do that. Some other things you might be able to do, let's say you're trying to figure out what movie to watch tonight, what are the top movies of 2020? It'll give you a list of that. But let me give you an example of, a way that you can really use the power of ChatGPT. Let's say that you're interested in trying to come up with a hobby for yourself. You might be real generic and say, hey, just give me a list of hobbies. And it'll create a list of, some pretty popular hobbies. Okay, well, those all sound okay, but maybe boring, or maybe I was looking for something a little bit more specific. And the more specific that you can be with ChatGPT in anything that you do. So let's say instead of just show me the hobbies, create a list of fun and unique hobbies for a Canadian couple in their mid-40s that most people have never heard of. Let's see if we can make ChatGPT sweat a little bit here. But let's see what it comes up with. Okay. Geocaching, urban foraging, letterbox. Okay. All right. It's pretty good because most of these I've never really heard of. Dowsing.
You ever played disc golf, Mike?
Okay. All right. Wait, I've done stand-up paddleboarding. That one I do know. Not real great at it, but yeah. So look, you can see the more specific that you can be with this engine, the better responses and more powerful it's going to be for you. The next category I call long form written prompts. So this could be anything from, developing a couple of sentences of unique context, unique text or information, or paragraphs, even writing blog articles, essays, maybe even writing a song or even a book. Now there's a catch to trying to write a book, because ChatGPT basically, it's one of the limitations. So it measures characters in all these responses in what it refers to as tokens. And each response is limited to 4,096 tokens. I don't know, sounds kind of like a random number, but basically that's the equivalent of around 2,000 to 2,500 words in English, let's say. So that's what your limit on these responses is going to be. So yes, technically, I suppose you could use it to help you write a book. You can't just say, write a, 100-page book. It's not going to do that. But you can ask for certain categories and maybe write chapter by chapter or different categories or topics, broken out and things like that. So let me just show you a couple of simple examples here. Let's say you just wanted it to generate an email for you. You're maybe late on your electric bill with Electra, and you want them to, thank them for their patience, but let them know the payment's on the way. Okay, maybe this is a little bit of overkill. Not what I had in mind. I just want to make it shorter. And yeah, that's more like it. Just something super quick and simple. But maybe we want to be a little bit more specific. And maybe we want a blog article, but we want it very specific, some specific parameters around SEO. We don't want it to be too long. So let's say we're going to write we want it to write a 1,000 specific word blog article on the best ways to spend the summer in Toronto. So it's going to do that. And it's even going to break up each individual category and show you how many words are in each section. And it's going to make it up to, gosh, I'm not going to sit here and count it, but I wonder if it's exactly, it ends on the word so. It made it exactly 1,000 words. Okay, maybe it took us just a little bit too literal. But now I'm just going to do one fun one before I leave this section. But hopefully you're starting to generate some ideas. And hopefully you might even have some ideas of things that you might want us to try for you that you might be thinking about right now. But here's a crazy one. Let's write a country song about a dog that drinks beer and drives a pickup truck. Can it do that? Okay, geez, there's even a chorus. Sure enough, that dog can drive and drink beer. I was just down in Nashville, folks. So country music and pickup trucks are top of mind with me right now.
We're going to go through and sing the song and test it out, or?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's no music here, so I can't really do that. So it's more in poetry, but you can ask for poetry. I mean, anything really, the sky's the limit. The next category, I'm not really going to get into it. It's like complex problems. So you could, put math problems, word problems, and things like that. Might come in real handy if you're trying to help your teenagers like I am with homework. But I'm just going to skip over that one because that one's also can do some crazy, crazy things. But, from a business perspective, may not be what we're going to be doing every day. Now, another section, you can ask it for feedback. So if you have written something, maybe you've written a blog article or something like that. Now, one of the things that you do have to do is you have to provide it with the information. You can't just say a web page. So I'm going to use us as the guinea pig. I'm just picking one of our blog articles, Dangers of Weak Business Passwords. So I'm just going to copy the text here and copy. I'm going to go back to the window here. I'm going to paste. First, I'm going to say critique the blog. I apologize for my slow typing. You can say critique the blog article and then just paste all the text in and then just hit the button here. And it is going to do that. It's going to say overall, it provides some useful insights, but it's pretty judgy. So it's going to give us some areas that it could be enhanced, like changing the introduction. It's going to tell us what was good. However, so it's really nice. It tells us some nice things, but then also tells us how horribly we've written it and what we can use. So a lot of useful information in there in helping you critique things, but that might be a good one if you're generating blog articles. Ask it for feedback. If you've written letters, papers, even critique an email to ask you, how do you think this is going to come across to the other person, things like that. But we're just going to keep Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, what if you asked it how this would rank in terms of SEO value? How it would respond?
Let's see. I've never tried this before. So it's basically maybe can't tell us specifically how this is going to rank. And I will say that about ChatGPT. It also will tell you its limitations in certain areas, especially when it comes to legal cases. And also, it always has this little disclaimer on the bottom here that it may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. So it's something that you always have to be checking on. I mean, over time, it's probably just going to get better and better and better. But it did give us some relevant information and things to look at to try and help us with our SEO.
Look at the conclusionary paragraph there too. It says some essential things to optimize relevant keywords, provide high quality and engaging content. So
Yeah,
with it. But I know what I think one of our tests is going to be writing a blog article optimized for SEO, seeing how it produces that.
exactly. So that was, basically asking it for feedback. The next section is modification, prompts. So, and this really just covers all the different areas, but I just wanted to give you an example of how you can use modification prompts to change things, but also how it has a lot of innate knowledge. So I'm going to ask it to rewrite the story, Mary Had a Little Lamb, but I want it to use an angry tone. I mean, Mary Had a Little Lamb is such a nice, children's story, but let's see if it can.
You're evil.
I know I'm evil, right? I don't know. I was trying to think of something, really random to do that would be really off the cuff. And sure enough, Mary Had a Little Lamb with a furious rage, it ran. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But now let's give it a real challenge and say, I'm not even asking it to write the mean thing. It's going to understand that I want it to just rewrite Mary Had a Little Lamb like Snoop Dogg was talking. Hopefully everybody knows who Snoop Dogg is. Yeah, Mary Had a Little Lamb, you know what I'm saying? Straight chilling in the hood, just playing. So all kinds of different styles. You can ask it to change the style in any kind of a crazy style. You could change the tone, make it angrier, make it happier, make it a positive tone, things like that. The next section I wanted to go over is like instructional guides. You could ask ChatGPT to teach you how to do anything, but let's say something super simple. Teach me how to make an apple pie from scratch. And it'll go through and do everything for you, including giving you all the ingredients, going through all the instructions, how to do that. But I mean, baking and recipes and things like that are super easy, but you could ask it to tell you how to give you instruction, how to play a song on a musical instrument, whole bunch of other things. The next kind of section within it is information extraction. So you can give it a set of data or a reference and try and find, data within that set. So as an example, like you can provide it with the information and, copy and paste information or reference like I'm going to do here. I'm just going to reference a book. Let's say, who are the main characters in the book Of Mice and Men? And let's see if it can pull that up. And of course, it's going to do that. It's going to give you the list of characters and even give you a description of the characters. So, and another example, I'm just going to use another book as well, but another key feature is just like paraphrasing. You don't want to pare down. I don't have time to read the whole book, Gone with the Wind, or I don't have time to read a whole article or paper or blog article, whatever the case is. And you can use the paraphrase command. And look, it's given me Gone with the Wind literally in one sentence. I could ask it to make it a little bit longer, expand, etc., and it'll go ahead and do that for us. The next area is another one I'm really not going to cover, which is, it can generate code. And that's a super powerful thing. Programmers everywhere are using it to easily, I mean, I'm sure they already have a lot of tools that are available to help them do this, but ChatGPT certainly makes it easy for anybody, any kind of like even a novice programmer, to be able to generate code in a multiple of different computer languages. So super powerful for that. So maybe not that practical, let's say for a business owner, but certainly really good for programmers. Certainly if you have any programmers on staff, they probably already know about it and are already using it. So the last sort of general section that I wanted to cover is, I guess what they call conversation and advice. So you can ask for recommendations and advice for ChatGPT, just like you were asking a friend. I'm just going to try and do something specific here. What's a good action movie made between 2015 and 2021 that I can watch with my 10-year-old kid? Now, obviously, I made the date specific because I know that it can't tell me of any recent movies. It can only go up to 2021. So let's see what it comes up with here. And it gives us a great option. Spider-Man, sure, that's a perfect kid-friendly movie, lots of action in it. But let me ask for maybe a little bit more of like an advice type scenario. So let's say my girlfriend asked me to go to the ballet, but I hate the ballet. How can I tell her I don't want to go in the most polite way? Let's see if this makes it break a sweat at all. Let's see. All right, and it's even going to give you some advice on just how to talk to your girlfriend in general. It's important to be honest. And I will say that is generally a spin within ChatGPT. The writers and creators of it wanted it to be honest. They did not want it to be a rude or evil type tool in any way. Sweetheart, I really appreciate that you invited me to the ballet. But I want to be honest with you, I've never been a fan. Maybe I want to spend quality time with you. Maybe there's other activities that we can both be excited. So anyways, just some things that I wanted to show you. But let's move on now and maybe talk about some more things that might be a little bit more practical in your business. So I think what a lot of businesses are probably using it for, marketing tasks. So an obvious one is going to be writing blog articles. Let's say you're an insurance firm and you want to write a blog article about how to find a good cyber insurance firm, and you want to post this onto your website, and it's going to give you a comprehensive guide, and it's going to write basically the whole thing for you. Obviously, you would need to format it and add in your own images and things like that, but it'll even give you a conclusion. And I've done this, multiple times over and over. It writes some pretty good content. But now let's just say I'm concerned about SEO on this blog article, and I just want to optimize it for SEO. So I'm just going to give it this command, optimize it for the keyword phrase, cyber insurance Toronto. And now it's just going to rewrite it, and you're going to see it's going to add in that keyword phrase a little bit more, add in the word Toronto in certain areas. So that is certainly a really powerful aspect of it. Let's say you're, in manufacturing, and you want to write an article describing the newest trends in manufacturing, and there you go. It'll go ahead and do that. So let's look at another one. Maybe social media posts is another thing that, people run out of ideas all the time. Probably a pretty common task that you might be using social media for. Maybe you have a new employee starting and you want to welcome a new employee named John Smith, and we want to write a social media post. And there you go. It'll go ahead and generate that for you, and looks real nice too. Maybe also assisting in marketing. Let's say you want some help with SEO and you're trying to figure out, what keywords should you be using? So what are the top search phrases for printing companies in Toronto? So you'll see, it's even going to come up with a caveat. It's going to vary depending on the target audience, but here's some commonly used ones and, some things that might help you get started. So marketing, and you can probably get some idea that there's lots of different ways that you can go there. The second area would be in research. So I've kind of alluded to this before of how you can do it, but let's say maybe you don't have a lot of time for reading books, but there's a popular book I read a long time ago, written by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Lots of salespeople certainly have read this book. I don't have time to read it, but I want to summarize it. All right, maybe that summarization didn't really give me all the information that I was hoping to get out of it. So I can just, further ask, well, hey, what are the top 10 takeaways from this book? And just give me the basic, facts, and it's going to come up with what it feels anyways. The top 10 takeaways are from that book. So certainly lots of different ways, but you can summarize any kind of a long document or a book, even, use it for trying to verify facts. So let's try this one out and see what it comes up with. Let's just say, is it legal to make moonshine at home in Canada for personal use? So let's see what it might come up with. Yeah. In Canada, production of moonshine and homemade alcohol is illegal. What? Oh boy, I better get rid of my still. Yeah. But it does provide some other useful information in here as well. But anyways, fact checking, again, you have to still be double checking things, because as the caveat says, it may or may not be 100% accurate with information. But let's say you wanted to do some research on a prospective company you're hoping to do business with. You want to find out a little bit more about them. This is just a super simple one. What's Microsoft passionate about? Or you could, whatever business that you might be calling on, but it'll do the research and it'll pull up like core values and things like that of the business. But you could ask lots of different things. How much revenue does this company generate? How many employees does it have? All those kind of questions that you can use in researching from a sales perspective, trying to impress a client and whatnot. And then even just internally, let's say you wanted to, or this is sort of externally, but this always happens come holiday time. Lots of people put out a message to their clients, thanking them for their support and continuing to work with them. So let's say we're an insurance firm and we want to thank our clients. Yeah, if you added in your company name, it would fill that in there. But it's going to generate, a template that you can use and send out to your clients with a greeting. You could, tell it to make it like a greeting card, and it'll format it maybe and word it a little bit different. Here's potentially a common example of something else that might go out to clients. Let's generate a positive email to clients informing them of a rate increase due to increases in operating costs and the cost of living, but want to keep it positive. And you can see that ChatGPT is going to be real nice. And even at the beginning, take a moment to express appreciation for ongoing support and trust in our services. And again, you can tailor it. More information you give, what industry that you're in, it will tailor it to whatever industry that you happen to be in. So a lot of people, want to use ChatGPT for creating documents. And in a lot of cases, that might be legal documents. So I'm just going to ask GPT, hey, why don't you just tell me, what are some examples of, legal documents? I don't know, maybe you're a lease, you own a property that you lease out or things like that. Who knows, maybe something like that. But you can create an employee contract. Obviously, it's always going to have a caveat in here. Anytime anything legal comes up, it's important to note that while it can provide a starting point for legal documents, it's advisable always to consult with a qualified legal professional. So anytime you are going to use it, as it says, it could help you, it could get you started, maybe for super simple things. It can help you we've used it in a couple of cases to say, hey, look at this legal clause and give me your opinion on this legal clause. It'll give an opinion on a legal clause as well, but still 100%, anytime you ask for anything legal, it's always going to have this disclaimer that's going to come up with any kind of an answer that it's going to give you.
Well, and that's a good example used there, Mike, at the end, was just that if you were having difficulty understanding some clauses and agreements, feeding those into ChatGPT and getting, the layman's interpretation of what that clause is really outlining and identifying to make it easier to understand.
Exactly. So what a lot of other people might want to know, what are really the limitations of ChatGPT for businesses? So, hey, why don't we just ask ChatGPT what its limitations are for businesses and let it tell us by itself? So, yeah, and the number one thing there is the lack of legal expertise. But then the second thing, contextual understanding. So obviously everyone knows it's not human. It can, in a lot of ways, seem human in the way that it's responding and the way that it words things, but it is not human. So you still have to be careful and review any kind of output it's putting in before you use it for your business. Yeah, there may be some compliance issues and certainly things with confidentiality and privacy. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure where this information goes. If somebody is in story, if OpenAI is keeping copies of everything here, if it's possible for somebody to see, what information you're putting in, if you do put, you want to be really specific about something you're writing with a person's name and maybe their address and things like that are going to be a part of it. Not sure about the confidentiality and privacy of inputting anything like that in here. It says number 5 here, interpretation and bias. It's going to have its own interpretation and bias. You may not agree with. And then there's also going to be just limitations in data. Obviously, it has data up until September 21, and it's not every piece of data ever, captured or gathered in the whole world. There are still going to be certain limitations to it. It even says itself, it can be a helpful tool, but obviously you need to do your own homework on it as well. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. Now, anything showing up in Q&A or in the chat there, Tyler, for?
Yeah, just one question just came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know the answer to this one, but how can we stand up a private tenant of ChatGPT within our business? Obviously, concerns around privacy, knowing that if you're feeding it any type of private confidential information, not really knowing where that's going. So is there a way to set it up like a tenancy or something to reduce the likelihood of that being spread? But I don't think we know the answer to that. And I will say, like, everything right now is in this sort of test and preview mode. And you're going to see that the first time that you create an account, it's going to give you that information and that caveat with it. I have a feeling that something like this is not even going to come out, or, so apparently we stand corrected. Maybe you can.
Stand corrected, and maybe you can. So yeah, and that'll be our next webinar, and we will get Mr. Kevin Studley, who is another IT expert, on the call with us. How can you use ChatGPT to email communication with clients? So you can't actually send emails directly from ChatGPT. It can create the text for you, but you're going to need your own email client. At least right now, that functionality doesn't exist. However, I will say there are plugins coming, and I believe there is a plugin may even be available within Outlook right now, that you can get a plugin like a ChatGPT type plugin for whatever email program that you use. And in that case, then it'll automatically generate it and throw it into the email for you. But if you're using, if you're just going on OpenAI and ChatGPT native here, you're going to have to copy and paste whatever it spits out and put it in whatever email program that you're going to use and whatever other formatting around it that you might require.
Yeah, some other creative ways if you're responding to an email, you could put in what's, obviously take away any private or confidential information from the email, but feed it in and how should I respond to this email in a positive way, or whatever type of tone you want that response to come back in. Feed that initial email that you're responding to into ChatGPT, and then leverage the response it gives, and make it your own, but use that as a template for the response.
Exactly. So, and thank you, Shane, brings up some good points here.
Yeah.
Certainly this last one that, now that this technology exists, companies should come up with a specific policy if your current policy doesn't already cover these things, but on how it can and or can't be used. And if you are going to use it, some sort of, contingencies in there for checks and balances of information if you are going to use it for generating, blog content and email content and things like that. So thank you for that, Shane. Right. Yeah, I think everybody's probably trying to figure out how to encrypt data. Ghostwriter is the plugin for Outlook, right? And pay per use. So yeah, there's lots of different plugins and apps and things like that coming out. Newer, we're going to see all kinds coming, every day.
Different front ends that are leveraging the ChatGPT engine. There's copy.ai for marketing, and it's really just a front end to ChatGPT to be able to easily create, blog posts, media releases, web pages, all of that. And it just gives you an easier to use front end that's essentially just leveraging ChatGPT.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks for that last couple of bits there. Yeah, so Shane writes that they use a custom Outlook macro that integrates into their Microsoft 365 and ChatGPT. And they actually use ChatGPT to write the code for that macro. So that's great. Yeah, boy, if you just sit and think for a while, like there's so many different things that you can use it for, a lot of things that people haven't even thought of yet. All right, so I'm just going to stop this share here and just jump back into to wrap things up here. Yeah, so just in summarizing the different ways that a business might be able to use it, whether it's marketing tasks, for research, your client communications, document generation, and then, interactive chatbots. So if you don't already have that feature, I'm sure you can find a great chatbot. So we have this little cheat sheet that we're going to send out to people after we're done here, just to give you some info on ChatGPT, some recommendations and things like that, things to look out for. So we will send that to you after. But now we're just going to open things up. If there was any more, I see there might be some more things in the Q&A.
Yep, we've got, so one, how is Pace using ChatGPT, which affects their clients? At this point, we're not using ChatGPT yet for anything other than kind of in the experimental phases, figuring out use cases and how we can leverage this in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and we have used not this specific one, but an offshoot. We do use, is it called copy.ai?
Yeah, copy.ai.
So copy.ai uses the chat engine, and we just use it for, assistance with, writing and reviewing blog articles. So just to help with a little bit of content in certain areas. Oh, thank you, Mr. Studley, for the positive reinforcement there. He said, great job, gentlemen. What about another question? What about for consumer-facing information? How would you use ChatGPT? Do you have any ideas on that, Tyler?
Well, I think there's a lot of use cases for customer facing information, whether it's, drafting a letter that goes out to your client base, whether you're promoting an event, even how to plan and organize for an event. So if you wanted to have a summer party and you wanted the cost to be, roughly $50 a person, and you were going to include employees, you could, put all of this information into ChatGPT and ask for recommendations. It could then help you draft an invitation that you send out to customers. So updates on what's going on with your services or changes to your services. A lot of different use cases in all of those situations. It's really to help build a framework, a template, but strongly recommend you make it your own after that initial draft that ChatGPT generates.
Exactly. And another, what could be consumer facing, like your website. So helping you write content, whether it's blog articles, even for product pages, if you gave, specific parameters, it'll help, with the supporting information outside of the basic facts. If you said, write a web page, here's the features of our product or service, write a web page describing that, and it'll basically fill in all the information for you around the basic facts that you might give it. Shane says he already uses it daily at their company. Next question, how about using ChatGPT for your consumers to interact with? So, I guess one of the obvious ones there is literally the chat bot that you might use on your website. So using one that potentially has this engine or a more advanced engine in it is just going to be a little bit more intuitive. I was on one yesterday, and again, just for time constraints, we can't show everything, but I did want to show an example of a more advanced chat model for a website that will, ask, categories, what are you interested in? And then based on your choice, it'll ask you more questions and continue to ask to get to the bottom of what you're looking for, and then provide whatever information that you might be looking for. So it can be very interactive. You can do it to vet, new sales opportunities that might be coming into your website. So lots of different ways that you can use it there, but certainly at the moment anyways, like ChatGPT isn't going to answer the phone and talk to your clients just yet. Who knows? Maybe that's coming down the road as well. Norm says he's cautioned a number of his staff around what information that you share with ChatGPT. Some staff feel it's not a big deal to give up sensitive information. I don't like them doing, but am I being too cautious? I don't think you can be too cautious.
No, I agree.
This is brand new. And once we type that in that little, like I said before, once you type your information in that little window, we're not totally sure exactly where it goes. I'm sure I can research that, or we can all research that and see potentially what happens. But, right now, this is basically a free tool that's being provided for us. So I'm sure OpenAI wants all this information. They want to see what people are searching for and looking for, because that's going to help them develop the tool more. But at the same time, they're probably keeping that information because there's no other way around it. That's what they have to do to get that kind of information and feedback. And someone here, Epton writes, ChatGPT is gathering personal information. I have an experience in a chat that it knew my name. Okay, that's a little bit scary, but I will tell you that, even just at home here, talking to my wife about doing this webinar, all of a sudden in her feed, she was getting, all these different chat GPT. So that's one thing that we need to all know now and be checking, is that there's seemingly always someone listening.
Shane makes a great point too, just making the information you provided anonymous. So put anonymous information, then change it back on your end with a copy and paste. So we were playing around with it, and we identify ourselves as service provider, and we identify clients as client, and it highlights that in brackets and identify service provider client, and then you could take that into a Word document, do a global find and replace on it, and make it personalized. But I agree, putting in everything as anonymous information is the safest route at this point.
Yeah. And then one other question here. Is there anything you recommend not using it for? I mean, we've already brought up the legal aspect,
legal documents,
legal information, legal advice, and certainly it'll give you the caveat and tell you, hey, you should consult with a lawyer anytime you ask anything of a legal nature. The only other thing that I would say, like personal things, like if you ask, ChatGPT if you should break up your girlfriend and it based on certain factors, I don't know, it'd probably give you a caveat to say, hey, I'm not going to tell you that. But things of a personal nature and, making life decisions, on, the responses and feedback that you might get from a tool like this, I would also say, take it all with a grain of salt and make your own decisions. All right. So I think we are out of questions here at the moment, and thank you for all those. They were, fantastic questions. I think we're going to stop it there. But look, if anybody has any more questions, our email address here, inquiries@Pace Technical, will go to both myself and Tyler. Again, if you haven't met with us recently, we'd love to have a conversation with you. We do, free IT assessments for companies that maybe want a second opinion on how they're managing IT. But certainly, even any questions about ChatGPT, go ahead and hit us up.
Pacetechnical.com. I see we don't have the .com on our email address.
Right. Oops. We missed that little tidbit of information. Okay. Well, everybody, thanks again for attending today, and look out for our next webinar coming up. And everybody, if we don't speak to you soon, also have a great summer. Bye now.
Everyone, bye-bye.